Hey guys, it's me, it's Clayton. I bet you're wondering, why am I wearing a mask? Well, I was trying to find a Deadpool mask somewhere around my room, but surprisingly I don't have any, so I just had to go for the closest thing I have to it, which is just a Captain America mask. Anyways, this is a movie I didn't really expect for the longest time to ever be made. Deadpool is one of my favorite comic book characters. Certainly he is for a lot of people, because he's a fan favorite mainly due to his comedy, his self-awareness, and his ability to break the fourth wall. And let me tell you, this movie encapsulates exactly why fans love the Deadpool character and why he's such an incredible anti-hero in the Marvel Universe. So the story to this film is about Wade's origin story. I know it's groan-worthy, but just go with it. Where it turns out he was an ex-Special Forces guy named Wade Wilson. Wade meets up with a girl named Vanessa, who is known as Copycat in the comics, and they really seem to hit it off with this really lewd, crude, but ultimately humorous romantic relationship that is until Wade gets cancer. I know, it's pretty darn dark. So after Wade figures out that he has cancer, he gets contracted into the Weapon X program, where a villain named Ajax and his henchwoman Angel Dust end up torturing him with their experiments until they unlock his mutation, which gives him awesome regenerative powers, but also scars his body entirely, and it turns him completely crazy. And by crazy, I mean the goofy kind of crazy, where he spouts an obscene amount of vulgar one-liners that would make George Carlin blush, and where he constantly talks to the audience and breaks the fourth wall just like his comics version. But the story goes to a very predictable light once Deadpool's girlfriend Vanessa ends up getting kidnapped and he has to save her, along with the help of Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I did not make that name up. So the story is ultimately very predictable in this film, and it hits many beats that you'd see in a lot of superhero movies, which is very unlike how I'd expect a Deadpool movie to roll along, even for a directorial newcomer like Tim Miller. But what makes the film work is the fact that Ryan Reynolds gives one of the best performances of his entire career. In fact, mask off, let me just tell you how good his performance is, because it's outstanding. He captures every single element of Wade Wilson's character. He captures his comedy, he captures his good-heartedness deep down, and he captures his absolute insanity. One of the reasons I loved Deadpool so much, and how I still love Deadpool so much, is not just his humor, but the fact that his humor is used not as a way to, shot put the fact that he's a bad character, because he's not a bad character. Because Deadpool, usually some people could see his humor as sophomoric, juvenile, and more than a bit sexist. And while he certainly is sophomoric and juvenile, the sexism that you'd expect is toned down significantly. Not that he's a feminist superhero by any means, because he isn't. But thankfully his humor isn't meant to be offensive or racially or sexually offensive. Turns out his humor is meant more as weird and really satirical rather than truly offensive or, crossing a line. And when his humor does cross the line, it mainly comes from how over the top and crazy it is rather than offensive. But just because Wade's an amazing character, does that mean the rest of the characters around him are amazing? Unfortunately, not so much. Most of the people around Deadpool are kind of archetypes. You've got the damsel in distress in Vanessa. You've got the comic relief in T.J. Miller's Weasel. You've got the generic villain in Ajax. You've got the generic henchwoman in Angel Dust. And you got the pity X-Men cameos, Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Apparently because no one could pay for more X-Men characters. And of course you got two gratuitous cameos in not only Stan Lee, but also in Rob Liefeld, the original creator of Deadpool. So yes, I would have preferred if the story was truly subversive and if it took a few more risks. But the humor is so fast-paced and it comes across with so much intensity that it does make up for it. And Ryan Reynolds completely holds the movie on his shoulders the whole way through. But I'll admit, if you're not a fan of Deadpool's type of humor, uh, his constant adult jokes, especially involving sexual content, violent situations, and many, many, many F-bombs, eject now. If you hate that type of humor, you will not like a single thing in this movie. But if you like that profane sense of humor, you'll love Deadpool from start to finish. Though in many respects, some people could say his humor does offset the fact that when you take that away, this is sort of generic as far as superhero films go. The locations are very typical as far as superhero films are considered, just generic houses, an aircraft carrier, a laboratory, etc. All stuff you've seen in the trailers. And the whole story about Deadpool trying to save his girl from Ajax and Angel Dust is familiar to people who have seen a ton of superhero films, especially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if there's ever a Deadpool 2, I would like it if we not only had more X-Men cameos, Cable would be one, but also I would have liked if the film had a story that could match the insanity that Deadpool has. Not to mention, the R rating is completely worthy for this film. There are so many times where Deadpool not only says obscene words that would make a sailor blush, but also a huge amount of sexual content, tons of Tarantino-esque violence, and just the overall insanity of the pop culture references and the crazy scenarios that most kids won't get. So yes, it's a superhero film for adults, in a similar vein to films like Kick-Ass and Kingsman: The Secret Service. So, ultimately, I also have to point out the fact that the music in the film is amazing. I mean, there's obviously the X Gon Give It To Ya, a song that's used at one point in the film, but also the many licensed songs that Tim Miller uses for the film are very ill-fitting for scenarios, but they're often used for comedic purposes. The opening scene is one of my favorite opening scenes in all of superhero films, as the credits are incredibly humorous. They're self-referential, they're lewd and crude, and they get to a point where Ryan Reynolds is completely okay with insulting himself as well as 20th Century Fox for the mistakes they've made and for the mistakes that he's made. That's the best type of comedian, one who can make fun of everyone, including himself. And let me tell you, the fight scenes in this movie are so gleefully violent. Not only are they so well done, but they totally make up for the stupid appearance that Deadpool had in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Yeah, remember that scene where Deadpool has his mouth shut and the director clearly did not know how to write his character? This movie takes the director and says, "Nope! Nope! This is not how you make Deadpool. This is how you write Deadpool. You idiot! You bad, bad idiot!" Well, if the director was in front of me, I probably would do that to him. I'm just so gleefully insane like Wade Wilson himself. So, at this point, I'm just hoping Deadpool gets another movie, or at least a cameo in one of the later X-Men films. But if Deadpool goes back to the MCU and gets another actor, I'd be okay with that. But let me tell you, no actor before or since has encapsulated the character quite like Ryan Reynolds. So, it's the rare type of film where the story and the characters aren't really what saves the film, but instead the fact that the film is so gleefully insane, pushes the border of good taste so much, and the fact that the film is so self-aware and so goofy to the point where it actually makes up for its flaws, to the point where this is, quite honestly, the funniest superhero film I've seen by many miles. So I give Deadpool an 8.5 out of 10. See it in theaters, do not bring the kids, and just have an absolutely insane, utterly psychotic, completely blood spattered, popcorn chewing, hot dog munching, soda slurping good time. I'll see you later.